The way we live out our Acts 1:8 Jerusalem, I think, is through the kids that we ended up sort of adopting. Jordan will tell you a little more about that story, but that's kind of our neighborhood in the Acts 1:8 model. So, Jordan, why don't you tell them about how that came about with the kids?
Okay. When I first started my faith, I was a baby Christian, and I just started really reading my Bible a lot and meditating on the Word like Rick tells you to do. And one day I was reading by my front window, and God kind of spoke to me for the first time. I had never heard his voice, that kind of quiet voice. And he said, look out the window, and there's something I want you to your eyes on. And there were a brand new little family of 3 little kids and an older caretaker. So I thought to myself, God, I'm going to help you with that. When Barry gets home, I'll make some cookies, and I'll have Barry bring those over, because honestly,
The cookie ministry.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't like to meet new people. I would rather just push my husband to go do it. And then I really heard God give me a second little push, say, I said I want you to go out there and meet them. And I really took that seriously. He really hit my score in the heart, and I did. I kind of felt myself pushed out the door, and I went over there and ingratiated myself on this woman and the 3 kids she was in charge of. And I told her, hey, your kids look like they're my kids' age. And I drive them to school in this big old VW bus that I was driving at the time. I'm sure I could fit your kids in here too. And she thought that was a good idea. So, so I became the school bus driver for those kids and my kids. And then more and more.
Yeah, we started to notice that more and more there weren't any adults around the house. You know, the older lady wasn't always there, and they lived with their dad, but he wasn't there all the time either. And these were young kids, so as time went on, we kind of got more and more involved with the family, and they ended up spending more and more time at our house.
Yeah,
And
they started doing homework every day at our house. We go to the grocery store to have 5 kids with me at the grocery store doing stuff, and it was good helping me to get the groceries out of the car. And then as time would go by, like you said, we were doing more and more with them. There were more and more at our house. And another morning I was praying, and God spoke to me again, and he said, it's time to take these kids in. And I went right to Barry. I was so excited God spoke to me again. I went to Barry, and I said, Barry, God spoke to me again. He says we're supposed to take the kids in. And my husband said...
He's not telling me that. But I said I would pray about it. And, so we prayed about it for a week or so, and God ended up telling me the same thing, and he's like, I really want you to take these kids in.
And it was like a Saturday, I kind of remember. You said, I prayed about it. Yeah, he's telling me the same thing, and you and I prayed together after that, and we started walking out the door across the street to go talk to the dad because he was around, and at that moment, they were being evicted. The sheriff had pulled up. The dad had all his brothers over, grabbing stuff out of the garage. There was a lot of chaos going on, and we walked up to the dad and said, hey, he told us what was going on, and we said, hey, why don't you let us take the kids for a little while? And I figured that was what God was really saying to us at the time.
Just till you get on your feet, so help you out a little bit. And at first he said no, and then he said,
you know what, that would help me.
That would help me.
So we got him to sign some paperwork that gave us some temporary guardianship.
Being a lawyer.
I had to do that. You had all that ready to go. And he took off, and then we never saw him again.
We went to Guatemala and never came back.
Yep.
But it turned out to be a blessing for everyone, as the more we found out about what was going on over there, there was abuse, and it was just a terrible situation. So now we kind of understand after the fact, like God always does, about why he was sending us that way.
Yeah, he wanted to protect those kids.
Yeah.
But so 10 years later, we've had it's just been a huge blessing.
Right. We went from 2 kids to 5 kids in one day.
Yep.
And our kids just have been amazing. They went from having their own rooms and, one bathroom that they shared to having one bathroom for 5 kids and sharing rooms. And they were amazing about it.
Yeah, I think it helped us raise them better, too, because they weren't as spoiled. They didn't have as much for themselves.
10 years later, we got Kathy's at USC in her second year. Victor's studying engineering at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
He's a senior this year.
He's a senior.
At SLO.
Anthony's about to graduate high school. So those 3 kids that we had taken in just have blossomed, and we've been so blessed, even way more than...
There's nothing like watching a child that you've had so much to do with move on in their life and grow. And that is just the best. And that's the best retirement policy in the world. And it's just been such a joy to see them
And get to where
flourish
God
and-
wanted them to be, you
Yeah.
know, that we could be a little bit of a help
Yep.
for that. So
And the one story I always kind of tag on here, and I don't know if it's necessary or not to talk about, but there were times when it was really tough for us when we took them in, and I didn't really calculate the cost of what it would take to raise so many extra kids. I'm thinking just make more mac and cheese for dinner and some more green beans out of the
always
can.
good
It's not
for
a big
me,
deal.
yeah.
But there's so much more cost. These kids had lots of medical issues, and it really did. The cost just kept going up and up.
And at that time, I was working for the state, and it just the money wasn't working out. You know, the expenses were not working
Yeah.
out compared to the salary, and
I remember a time we were really worried. We'd get look at the money and redoing the money and redoing it, and it just was not. We could see it was just not going to.
Right.
After a while, we're going to really run out. And
But
it was just
as
at that
always,
time.
when God asks you to step out in faith, you know, He provides. And right at that time, one of the people that regularly I would see at work, another attorney, asked me if I wanted to join his firm and leave the state job. And it was a mile from my house and twice as much pay. So, I mean, it's such a God
It's
thing.
such a God thing.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic.
So
It's so crazy. And we took that, and our financial issues were gone, and we could just focus on raising the kids. And
Right.
And you know, we have other stories from that. We ended up meeting the mother of these children and befriending her and helping her to the next plateaus in her life, and helping her beat some problems that she was dealing with. And you know, it just goes on and on. You know, just put that one little foot out in faith when you don't see the end.
Right.
It's awesome. You just have to take that first step.